Good evening. We are here to talk about some cozy things and spill some cozy tea and hopefully not make too much of a mess. Welcome. I'm Sonia Michaels. My pronouns are she, her.
And I'm Fara Nizamani. My pronouns are also she, her.
And we're going to talk about why, when the world is on fire, uh, cozy is good.
And in a strange twist of irony, in the background is what? A fire truck. So if you hear fire truck, that's not us. It's just the universe giving out hints.
Right. Okay. Here's a little background on us that we are not going to read to you. We'll just give you a few seconds with it to sort of attempt to prove that we know what we're talking about. And
A little bit.
we've done a bunch of talks. We do a bunch of talks together. We've done them here and there and everywhere in Philadelphia, in Granada. We went to Spain and we did a talk together, which
That
was
was
like,
fun.
wow, somebody actually let us go to Spain and do a talk together, and that was marvelous. So that's who we are, and so we have a bunch of stuff that we want to talk about today. And so on today's menu, there's a few things we want to talk about. The first is some common stereotypes of what coziness is, and we're going to disagree rather strongly with some of them.
Mhm.
How embracing coziness in our lives can help us prepare to put out some of the fires, or at least to withstand some of the fires of the challenges ahead.
Mhm.
Creating our own cozy spaces or finding our cozy spaces and whatever, some media recommendations and some conclusions. So,
Mhm.
all right, let's do this. Farah, take it away.
All right. So, being English people, we could not resist that little play on words with clarity. So, just please forgive us for that. Cozy. Well, sometimes you've got to define what something is not before you can talk about what it is. And so, coziness is not weakness. Too many people think coziness, oh, you're so weak over there. If somebody just pokes you a little bit too hard, you're going to dissolve into a puddle of tears. No, cozy is not at all weak. In fact, it can be some of the most awe inspiring strength you will ever see in your lives. It's not passive. Uh, Passivity is not something that a lot of cozies do. They just do it a little bit differently. They're not in your face waving weapons and so forth. Uh, it's compassion and empathy. Like they
They
might
could
wave
be.
a
They could
Okay,
be.
it could be. It could
You
be.
know.
Yes, it could be. And waving a knitting needle or a crochet hook can be just as intimidating, but it's not passive at all. Conflict avoidant prefers healthy approaches to conflict. Again, we don't, or cozy does not go out looking for trouble, but cozy will meet it head on and try and solve the problem in a way that is beneficial to everybody. Yeah, nostalgia and yearning for a simpler past. Well, I think that anybody who has read a decent history book could look at that statement and go, really, no,
Yeah. And I think a lot of the time the nostalgia that a lot of people perceive as cozy is actually coming from the same kind of place where Brexit came from. Where it was like, oh, back in the old days when everything was better. It really wasn't, but hey, whatever. And so when people say that, oh, coziness is just like nostalgia, no, no.
No. Okay, so here's a little bit of a tidbit of information. My late grandmother, I asked her about her life because she was pre-World War I over here. And I asked her about her life growing up and she just looked at me with this way that grandmothers can look at you and said it wasn't that great. She would prefer things now far more than she did back then. So, I think a lot of people just look they forget about the hard times and they just remember the good times. And sometimes history books will just put forth the good versions of what happened, and they will forget all about the hardship. And so people who never even lived X, Y, and Z in the past look at it and hold it up as the holy grail of what life should be. And yeah, Sonia and I are both telling you, no, not.
Proud wives, no.
Um, deep
So yeah,
in
and
breath.
yeah, the less said about all that, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah, so coziness is also not escapism. There can be escapism in it, but you know what? It's okay to escape sometimes. And I've heard so many people say, because I think a lot of us have made the switch from the beast formerly known as Twitter over to Blue Sky, because it feels a little cozier and a little more welcoming. And people have come over from the beast formerly known as Twitter and gone, but it's an echo chamber. No, it's just that we get to decide who hangs out in our cozy living room with us. And we want it to be, full of goodness and kindness and so on. So, you know, not all cozy media is all sweetness and light, but it does often provide kind of positive, low stakes way to work through difficult things.
Yeah, and I always like to point out as well that if you're going to talk strictly about escapism, almost all video games are a type of escapism. Whether you're talking cozy or whether you're talking Counter-Strike or whatever horror game of the day is out there, it's almost all escapism. So pinning that label as pejorative on cozy games is really not in anybody's best interest.
Yep.
Yeah, just I don't know if I'm going to get through this bullet point. Just for women or for girls?
Girly thing.
Girly. Okay, so it's girls and women and basically non-toxic people that generally just like cozy because sometimes you just need a little cozy in your life. And that doesn't mean to say that you can't like other things. I mean, goodness knows, I enjoy watching a good Counter-Strike tournament with my kids. I enjoy all of the trash talking and all this other stuff, but
You
you
never.
know, I would never trash talk anybody. But I also would like periods where I want to go back to my Animal Crossing, even though what's his name, Tom Nook, gets on my nerves. Uh, I like it, and there's no reason for it to be all or nothing. People are very varied, and people have different complexities about them. And so to say that if you like cozies, you can't like Counter-Strike, like who says that?
Yep.
Nobody. Well, toxic people do, but okay. Um, Always G or E rated. Again, possibly, but not always. And when you talk about G and E rated, sometimes people have an unfortunate tendency to think about explicit language and sex and like murder as those are the things that you can't do when you're G or E rated. And it's true, you can't. But there are plenty of cozy games that even I, as a grown up woman, like, yeah, I'm well over 50 over here. And there are some that I've just had to stop and put down and take a break from the game because the material that was being talked about is just too intense. And I would never have a child play one of those games because the topics of discussion and the decisions that you sometimes have to make, they're not for children's consumption at all. But since it's called a cozy game, people think that it must be all sunshine and happiness and
Yeah.
unicorns
No,
and stuff.
no.
So yeah.
I love cozy murder mysteries,
Oh,
but there
those
are
are
murders
fun.
in them.
You just go stroll outside and you find a dead body in the aspidistras or something.
Yes, in the rose garden, it's very cozy, and I mean, one of the games on our list of cozy games had me and pretty much everyone I know ugly crying at one point in the game. So it's not always sweetness and light, but it is always kind of low stakes and fixable. Perhaps not for the murder victim, but fixable To a degree. So, all right. So that's, our point here is really that things can be wholesome and still have a little bit of a bite to them. And for everyone will have their own sweet spot for this. Some people do not want any of that stuff. And no, it was not Spiritfarer, but that should be on the list. Thanks for the reminder of that one, because yes, that one also had me weeping, and more weeping. So yeah, wholesomeness is great, and wholesomeness isn't always soft. It can still have some teeth. And as as a way to illustrate that, for anyone who remembers A Wrinkle in Time, like one of the books that kind of like defined my childhood, looking back on it, I think one of the important messages in that was that it's okay to be angry, and sometimes you need to be angry, and you need to use that anger again in a positive way to fix what is broken. And I think that's a real important thing.
Mm-hmm.
So why this is so important right now. We are English professors, we are English professors, so this is our thesis statement. So, looking around, reading the news. I mean, the past 3 days of news have been such a roller coaster in like so many countries in the world. Like watching stuff go down has been like there is not enough popcorn to deal with it, all the stuff that is happening, at home. And so I think that one of the really important things is for us to hold on to our values, and also to not doom scroll ourselves into oblivion. And it's so easy to do. And I'm trying to cut down on that and take little breaks to do the cozy things, which is why I have like the most massive cup of tea ever right here, because this will get me through the news feed right now, bizarre as it is. And so I think it's really, really important that we pace ourselves through times like this, because this is a marathon, not a sprint.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, most definitely.
So I think for us, the importance of a lot of cozy media is that it gives us our breathing space in which to make good choices. And I think most of us can probably recognize that the stress reactive choices that we make are not our best moments. When you are just like reacting to something without thinking about it first, that's when our judgment tends to go a little bit south. And right now we have an awful lot of cortisol, awful lot of stress hormones building up in us. We need more dopamine, we need more happy hormones. And for a lot of us, I know for Farah and I and many other people, we find this by engaging with cozy stories, whether it's games or books or movies or whatever. It's pro-social behavior. It's fairly low stakes, not no stakes. Like I said, people die, bad things happen, whatever, but low stakes enough that you know that it can be okay, and positive outcomes. And a few years ago, I just got really tired of arguing with people on the internet because they were wrong. They were so wrong, but you can't convince people they're wrong.
Yeah, that old adage about you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, is so true. You can, I mean, and as an English person, I am convinced of the power of a good logical argument. And, but I now understand that just because I present a beautiful argument and logic, all of this, choose the right words and everything, just because I present it doesn't mean that somebody else is going to learn it, because that's on them. And I can only do so much, and all of us really can only do so much. And so we have to practice self-care as well. And for me personally, and for Sonia as well, and I'm sure many of the others, uh, taking a little break now and then and just going, okay, I'm going to shut my door and I'm going to go play Witchwood, or I'm going to go play Story of Seasons or something, or I'm going to read this book that was my favorite book when I was a child, and I've read it so many times that I can probably tell you exactly what page somebody says something on. But for me, that's comforting, and that's how I recharge because goodness knows we are under assault from
Yep.
pretty much every side now. And now is not the time to give up on your self care. And so, cozy things, and we'll talk a little bit more about how you create your own cozy space a few slides down. But creating your own cozy space in whatever that means to you is so vitally important right now.
Yep.
It cannot be underestimated.
And I think the key for me was just realizing that life is too short to argue with people you can't convince about
Mhm.
things. And I don't think I'll ever again do a talk where I don't use this Mary Oliver quote because like I managed to fit it into every slide deck ever because if I have one wild and precious life, I do not want to spend it arguing with jerks on the G-rated version. So yes, I would rather go do cozy things for a while and let some of that fire, burn itself out and then come back ready to fight another day. Definitely.
Or
So
not,
yeah. Or
because
not.
sometimes sometimes you don't have a choice, but if you do have a choice, I love that phrasing. You don't have to come to every fight that you're invited to. And you really don't. You just have one life. And okay, ideas of reincarnation aside, because part of my background is mythology, um, you get what you get in this life. So especially I'm guessing if you believe in a reincarnation of some sort, you better make the best of it because it's the only one you're going to get right now until something dire happens to you.
Yeah. And it's a great idea, but I'm not going to count on it.
Mhm.
So, so absolutely. All right. So we have a bunch of things that have
Yeah, there we go.
helped us, at least. And I like stabbing things with needles. So it is it is probably for the best that I use this power for good. And
Mhm.
so I do a fair bit of knitting, and I'm not very good at crocheting, but I'm trying to learn. My daughter's way better at that than I am. I don't yet do cross stitch, but we have some examples to show you eventually.
Stay
I've got
tuned.
I've got these really cool needlepoint kits that are they are city maps. They're the most beautiful, colorful city maps of cities all over the world. And so I'm trying to do them. I've been working on the LO in London for 3 years now, but I will get there with my needlepoint. I'm just very, 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 very slow at it. And I keep threatening to start having Stitch and Bitch gatherings where people can just come over and sit around and work on their crafts. And I definitely want to do that. Um, Baking and cooking. I love baking. It's shortbread time, so
Mhm.
I gotta pull the butter out of the fridge, and
It's
there will be.
gingerbread time over here.
Yep. Gingerbread time, shortbread time. Yes, I do every year. My anatomically correct ginger people that
Well, supposed to be anatomically correct, but
yeah,
things happen sometimes.
things 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 do. Um, Sorry, you be journaling, right?
Yeah, journaling. I've never scrapbooked really. It was a big thing many years ago. I don't know how big it is still, but scrapbooking can be a really good thing. For me, journaling, gee, English teacher, journal. But journaling is a way to get out some of that, some of those negative emotions. And it also serves or can serve as a really good documentary or documentation, rather, of what's going on and what people are feeling. And one thing that I really enjoyed doing is going through literary history and reading the journals of the people who were writing them in whatever time it was to see what their take on it is because sometimes what you get fed in history books they're getting better now. Well, sometimes they're getting better, other ways are getting worse. What you're fed in history books sometimes, especially K through 12, is sometimes not that great. and in some cases it's outright wrong and incorrect. But the journals and the diaries that people used to keep were oftentimes very, very accurate. And you just get such a wonderful glimpse into their lives and what it was like. And I just love reading those. Um, Cozy artists whenever you can. Yes, there are plenty of cozy artists out there. Uh, so yeah, support them. Yay,
Yep,
support.
I've gotten some of the best art at the, from the vendors at GeekGirlCon, and a few weeks ago I was at the Sea Meow convention, the cat convention, and I got some cool cat themed art there, which was great fun.
Hmm. And so the next one, volunteering, food banks, animal shelters, etc. Sometimes you got to jump through a few little hoops, like especially if you're in dealing with older people and say shelters, because they really need to know who's coming in there and being around vulnerable populations. But volunteering can be a great way to connect with people and to feel like you're doing something to give back to the community and make it better. So never forget about volunteering. Movie nights. Oh my goodness. I love movie nights.
We have
Either,
lists and lists of movies, so
oh yeah,
yeah.
we got so many movies,
Mhm.
either at home or in theaters. Like, you don't have to go to a theater to have a movie night. Just invite some of your friends over or do it yourself if you just are having one of those moments where you need to do things by yourself and you don't want to people at all, because peopling can be exhausting at times. Even if you love them dearly, you're just like, get away from me for right now, just a little bit. And you just put on your favorite movie and get some popcorn or whatever and cuddle up with your favorite, what do they call those things?
They call
Squishmallows?
them cats, Farah, cats. I don't-
Okay, so
but they're all my favorites, so yeah.
cuddle up with something soft and fuzzy and just enjoy your night. You don't have to be on all the time.
Yep. Oh, and
Um,
so many things. Game nights, book clubs. I have started gardening. I still kill more than I save, but I'm making some progress. I am not quite ready for foraging because I would be terrified to eat anything that I found without.
But see, look at it this way though. Even if you do kill all of the plants that you get, what do? You go out and you buy some more. And if you buy from a local nursery, you are keeping the economy afloat and you are supporting local small business. So it's all good in the end.
Yeah, and I was smart this year. I got a lot of plants that are supposed to reseed themselves, so we will see if that happens. But I'm really hoping that by next year I will have a glorious self-seeding cottage garden or something,
Mhm.
something.
Oh, and a note about the book clubs. You can create your own as well. For almost all of this stuff, there's no reason that you have to go and join something that's already established. Just grab some of your friends and somebody's living room, get a room at the library, which doesn't cost anything, and just do your stuff there. There's nothing that says you have to join something that's already established.
Yeah, and there's nothing that says it has to be like serious literary blah blah blah. Like I am enjoying cozy romances lately, and
Mhm.
the English professor on the one side of my brain is like trying to beat me to death with my teacup, but whatever. I'm having fun with the romance books and so on. But getting out in nature is good. Up the block from us there is a little free pantry that always needs food and stuff. Tons of stuff that you can do that is kind of cozy, positive, pro-social in that way that you're kind of doing something to feed your own soul as well as other people and so on. And yes, there is nothing shameful about plugging your own channel on Twitch. So GeekGirlCon needs volunteers. It is an entirely volunteer-run event, and it is awesome. So there, nobody paid me to say that. Uh,
Plus,
and
you get to meet cool people like us. So,
exactly.
yeah. Mhm.
And so, we got community theater, we got musical stuff, we got travel if you can afford it. And if you can't afford it, you can take the bus to, to Golden Gardens or to, Edmonds or, whatever. There's all kinds of cool stuff that you can do that is fairly cheap. I want to mention buy nothing groups because Farah, you've got a story. Um,
Yeah, I got to tell you about this. So, plants, for those of you who like plants, like I just love this story, and everybody who hears it goes, "Oh, that's so cool." So many years ago, okay, when I say many, it's probably like 12-ish years ago or something like that. There was a woman on a Buy Nothing group who was giving away little cuttings of a cactus, like a Christmas cactus. And she said, come on out and get it whenever. And so I went to her place and we got to talking. Never saw this woman before or after, just only on this time. And so she gave me a little 4-section cutting of her Christmas cactus. And she was telling me how she got this. And she said, oh, yeah, I got it from my mother in law. And her mother in law had brought this over from World War II era Poland because she lived in Poland at that time. And when the Nazis came storming in and doing what Nazis do, she and her family pretty much fled with whatever they could carry. And when I say pretty much, I mean literally, they fled with the things that they could carry. And one of the things that she carried was this little cutting. I mean, not my little cutting, but probably several little cuttings. But the idea is that she loved this little plant enough to drag it halfway across the planet. And so now mine is in my bedroom over there, copying an attitude and demanding that I make more cuttings of it and give it because I've been giving cuttings out all over the place.
I've got
Uh,
two plants that came from the cuttings you gave me.
yeah. And I just like that story because it's cozy and it makes me happy to think that somebody would do something like that. And then I look at it and I go, yeah, you're the official old girl anti-fascist cactus in there. So that makes me very happy to think about that.
Oh, and I
And
think it's a Thanksgiving cactus because mine just flowered.
yeah, she said it was a Christmas cactus, but mine just flowered as well. So
Okay,
I'm
good.
pretty sure it's a Thanksgiving cactus. And I've been looking online and trying to do some research about the different types. So I'm pretty sure it's a Thanksgiving cactus.
Yeah.
But I've given so many of those away, and they have turned into a really nice gift, and they are very hardy. And I think just how much happiness this little bit of cactus that was brought over from Poland has given to so many people for so many generations now.
Yep.
And things like what we're talking about now, uh, that's not to be underestimated because those little things like that can really make an impact on people's lives. Maybe not a giant like meteorite hitting you in the face impact, but these little things that people do add up. And after a while, those little acts can have a huge impact on people's lives.
Yep.
So, yeah,
Anti-fascist cacti for everyone.
yes,
Um,
lots of.
you're already getting requests. So
I am.
so yeah, there are so many things that you can do to kind of create those spaces in your life. And I think it's really important to do that mindfully, to not just like hope that something good happens in a day, but to actually go, okay, I'm gonna set aside some time to do some of this. Like this morning I took a walk and I used my little Merlin app, which identifies birds by their bird songs. So I walked around trying not to fall on my face, identifying bird songs, and it was fun. And it gave me a nice little break from things. So because you had to see some of the subversive cross-stitch whatever. We got a few here. We got the create is to resist, and consent is sexy, and save the bees, plant some trees, clean the seas, punch nuts, seize. And
That was my favorite.
so yeah, I love that one. You found that one. So there are there are definitely a lot of things. I know this woman on Facebook. I've never met her in real life. She's a friend of a friend, and she does the most glorious subversive cross stitch, and it is awesome. So a few things that we want to share, to feed our hearts and minds and so on. And again, bearing in mind that you might not like the same things that we do, but we still thought, what the hell, this is our hour and we can recommend whatever we like. So like I used to say, this is my classroom, but
benevolent dictators over here.
hey, it's the only time we get to be that. So hang on, yeah, where am I? There we are. So we have some of our favorite cozy books and authors. I think that my slide with the squirrel didn't show up in this, but I don't want to unshare and reshare. So, but there's a cute squirrel cartoon. Anyone who wants the slides can have it later. But we're not going to read these lists to you, but I think we should definitely touch on a few of them. You go ahead and.
Okay, so Tamar Pierce, yes, I know she's an author rather than the book, but this is books and authors. So a lot of what she writes is very good. The Dark is Rising. I forget who I was, maybe Sonia, but I forget who I was talking to about this. This is the series that got me started with like fantasy, other than, say, fairy tales like Cinderella, that sort of stuff. This is the first one that's outside of that got me into fantasy. And in fact, I made the mistake of, well, it wasn't a mistake. I started off in the middle of the series with the Gray King. Because one of the librarians had it up there on the top of the shelf and displayed it, and I thought it looked good, and didn't realize until later that it was actually like the third book in the series. And so then, of course, I had to go back and finish all of them. And as I was telling Sonia and Alyssa earlier, I can still recite a good chunk of the central poem that informs all of this, all of the books. Boxcar Children, Dealing with Dragons. I loved Dealing with Dragons. That is such a funny series, and it turns a lot of the fairy tales on their head. Mixed Up Files. Oh yes, E.T.
Best thing ever. Yep.
E.T., some people would argue with me that E.T. is not cozy. And when we say E.T., I mean the movie E.T., the extraterrestrial. But according to my definition of what a cozy is, it's something that makes me feel good, that I want to keep doing again and again and again and again. And so E.T. is one of those things that are one of those movies that I just love, or rather, I think maybe we put E.T. in the wrong section.
Yeah, it should be in the movie section, but that's okay.
It's not a big deal. Not a big deal. And there are some romance series as well, because romance gets a really bad rep from a lot of people, especially English teachers. And I'm going to say right now, I will argue that until I drop. Romance it can be formulaic, but then every other type of writing can be formulaic as well. But a lot of people read romances because they know that no matter what kind of crazy stuff is going on, there's going to be a happy ending somewhere or another. And you can find all kinds of romances, whether they are the dark ones or whether they're the lighter ones, where the worst obstacle that has to be overcome is whether you're going to have the chocolate cupcake or the one with the sprinkles. And sometimes that's what you need. So again, it's all about what you want at whatever time you want it.
Yep, whatever makes you feel better. And my list, well, I got to mention the Moomin Trolls, because the Moomin Trolls are kind of, I don't know, it feels like I didn't grow up in the United States, but it feels like people in the US don't get as many Moomin Trolls as we did. And I adore the Moomins, and they are the coziest thing ever, because they were written by this wonderful writer from Finland, and it gets cold. apparently in Finland in the winter, and so there is coziness, and stuff like the Wind in the Willows and Escape to Witch Mountain, which isn't entirely cozy, but it gives me cozy feels from like my childhood, and of course Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basley. Frank Weiler is like one of my favorite of all time, like completely. Weirdly, some of this stuff people probably haven't heard of, but some of the books that had a bit the impact on me, like The Dark is Rising had on you, was Zena Henderson's books, and they were science fiction. I mean, I didn't know from science fiction at the time. I just knew that they were really cool stories about people who had like these powers, but who were discriminated against by the wider community, and they had to hide their powers. And there are some analogies there. And I also just adored the Chronicles of Prydain, but please do not watch the terrible movie that they made of the Black Cauldron and think that that is the Chronicles. It's just barely even connected. If you want fantasy that will make you laugh your ass off, among other things, go find some T. Kingfisher. T. Kingfisher is also my favorite person to follow on Blue Sky right now. She is awesome. That is the fantasy horror pen name of Ursula Vernon, who writes children's books, and she is the best. If you want cozy romance fantasy all in one, her Paladin series is fantastic. She also does wonderful fresh takes on fairy tales and so on. I adore her. Becky Chambers writes cozy space opera, which I didn't even know could be a thing till I read Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, and then I was like, wait a second, this is pressing all the cozy buttons. So Becky Chambers stuff is fantastic, and I have recently discovered and sort of now forced my husband to start reading. Well, doesn't have to be forced anymore. He's enjoying it. Jodi Taylor's Chronicles of St. Mary's, about a bunch of time traveling historians who screw things up constantly, and a bunch of other things there. And for romance, because I went to Scotland this summer, I've been reading all these like Scottish themed romances, and Trisha O'Malley has some fun ones, including a sort of a bit about Scottish war kittens, and you had to be there. But the kittens that the men keep in their sparrings when they march into battle in their kilts. Yeah, anyway, moving right along there. So let's
Yeah.
games. So I'm that person who still plays Animal Crossing every day.
Not every day, but
I have not missed a day of Animal Crossing since March 19th, 2020. Okay.
wow.
Because March 19th, 2020 was the day that everything closed down, and Nintendo like timed that kind of perfectly. I'm in fact wearing my Timmy and Tommy "Capitalism is a Cage" shirt right now.
So my kids will confirm that I cannot play Animal Crossing without some commentary on capitalist tools and how Tom Nook is raising his kids wrong.
Yeah, and I mean, I still I play my like 10 minutes to an hour every day, depending on what I'm doing. Shirt came, it was online, and my stepdaughter bought it for me for Christmas last year, and I was like, this is the best gift ever. And then I wore it when I gave a talk at the big games conference in San Francisco, and I wore my like grown up person's clothes, but then when it came time for the question and answer period, I took off my grown up person's top, and I had this on under it, and it was good fun. So Animal Crossing is still totally something I absolutely love. Cozy Grove, Fara, that's your jam.
Yeah, that's my jam. And if you remember earlier, I said that there were a couple of games that, although I love them, I had to put them down for a few days because some of the things that they were talking about and they were addressing in the games were too hard for me at that time. Yeah, this is one of them. The artwork is phenomenal. I'm a sucker for good art, so any of my recommendations they're gonna have good art in it. But Cozy Grove, Wildflowers. Oh my gosh, Wildflowers is another one. Yeah, I only put that one down, I think, once. I did a few times with Cozy Grove, but
Yeah.
Wildflowers is awesome. The representation there is excellent.
Yep,
I mean, the diversity is something to be held up as an example
it's
of what,
fantastic.
yes, of what a game can do when they set their minds to achieving it.
Yeah,
And that's one of the reasons that I like it. But also, I mean, it's a darn good game too. So yeah, I highly recommend Wildflowers.
it's a
Although there,
it's
yeah,
yeah.
there are a few things in there that they're not warm and fuzzy. There are some points where you might have to make a few decisions, and people talk to you about things that may make you go, I'm not sure I want to hear this like right now at this moment, but
Yeah.
it's necessary for the progression of the game.
Yeah, and I love the way the game handles romance because you know, as the main character Tara, you can there you know, you can romance men, women. There is a non-binary character. It's
Werewolves.
yeah, well, no, but that's just spoilers. But the cool thing is that once you like you have the romance and you marry someone and whatever, when you break up with them, you just go back to being best friends. You don't hate each other. They don't like get like dumped out of the game or anything. You just now you're friends and you can go marry the next person, and it's just a really nice, cozy romance mechanic. And yes, you can pet the kitty. You always have to be able to pet the kitty. And so yeah, and one of the things we discovered this year, we did a PAX talk on a kind of different angle on cozy stuff, and we discovered that there's this thing called wholesomegames.com, which is a bunch of guys who and women who do this sort of, there is a Twitch channel and they're kind of an aggregator of cozy games, and they were really sweet people. We chatted with them a bunch and they came to our talk and they gave us little tote bags and stuff. They were super sweet. And so, yeah, so many games that are cozy and wonderful. And yeah, we should have Spiritfarer on this list. And yeah, oh yeah, and on next Wednesday or Thursday, I think that whenever the 10th is, Studio Dry Dock that made Wildflowers is having some kind of big announcement of what their next game is going to be. So I'm really excited. I saw on the Discord channel that they're going to have this big thing. So yeah, we could talk about games for hours and hours and hours, but we also have to talk about films and television. And so just want to do a quick run through that while we have time. Like I said, cozy mysteries. If it's got a small English village and people occasionally die, I'm in. Uh, as long as the animals are okay, I'm in.
As long as the animals are okay, we're good.
And yeah, and it's I know it's holiday movie season, and oh, some of them are fun and some of them are so dreadful. So I'm not going to do a wholesale recommendation of them. But you know, some of my cozy, like I get great cozy feelings from rewatching Star Trek: The Next Generation, and I can watch Galaxy Quest 72,000 times and always love it. But you know, before you kind of go, okay, my taste is the same as yours. Aliens is also a cozy movie for me. Like I can totally, and yes, I know it's not really cozy, but sometimes I just want to watch Aliens and it makes me feel good. But you know, it's just stuff like that. I mean, Local Hero is this little Scottish movie that's one of my favorite movies of all time. And this summer when we were in Scotland, I got to go to the beach that Local Hero was filmed on. And you know, again, I did that thing where I stand on the beach and cry, and there's this 58-year-old woman standing on a beach weeping in the rain. And yeah, it's all. What are some of yours, for?
Well, I like Muppet Christmas Carol. And I gotta say, although I like Muppet Christmas Carol, my favorite version is you'll love this one, the Sir Patrick Stewart version. That is it as far as cozy films go.
Mhm.
Galaxy Quest, like you, I could watch that one over and over again because it does make me feel good.
And Alan Rickman is in it.
Anything with Alan Rickman is good. And speaking of aliens, with Sigourney Weaver in that role and then in this role, that was top notch. Santa Claus the movie. This was around like 1985 ish or so, and I haven't watched it recently. But I always liked that one. And this is one of the few times that I've been in a movie theater back when it was in the theaters, that as mild spoilers, so stick your fingers in your ears if you don't want to hear it. At the end of the movie, like uh, the entire audience just burst into applause at the ending of this because everybody was just feeling so good at the end of this movie. The Man from Snowy River is technically probably not a cozy. It's an Australian movie from a poem of the same name by Banjo Patterson, I think. And this one just gives me all the good feels. Princess Bride,
Of
yeah.
course. Yeah, yeah.
Goonies, and around this time of the year, It's a Wonderful Life. I like to watch that one. A couple of the characters get on my nerves, but it makes you feel good in the end.
Oh,
And again, sorry if there's any spoilers, but hey, that's what it does.
yeah. And I should have added to this also. I love Wes Anderson movies. Um, like everything from the Fantastic Mr. Fox to the Royal Tenenbaums and whatever, they bring me that kind of that feeling like I'm going home, when I watch some of them. But this is the important part. For anyone who is sensitive or anxious or who has specific phobias or things they just don't want to see, the website doesthedogdie.com is amazing. It is crowdsourced, and you can go on there for pretty much any triggers that might upset you and look, and if multiple people may have said, yes, this happens, that happens, this doesn't happen, don't. And sometimes people will even go the extra mile and be like, this happens in episode 3 at 17 minutes and 27 seconds. And so you feel like people who care about you are watching stuff with you and for you. Yes, there are spoilers, but it's good to know that you don't have to just go into something and not be prepared when something really terrible happens. And I still haven't watched John Wick, and I never will. So some things that I can't. I should have added Ted Lasso to this list too, because that's kind of awesome too. So I think the point that we are trying to make has been that if more of us valued food and cheer and song above hoarded gold, it would be a merrier world and a better world. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I think, to sum things up,
Mm-hmm.
I think we just want to remind people that there is nothing soft or weak or lazy about creating an oasis of kindness and coziness and a place where people can feel safe and at home and so on. And that doesn't mean that you just have to be nice all the time and be, I don't approve of civility and niceness. I approve of kindness and good faith conversations and as you said yesterday, Farah, when we were putting this together, like holding on to your humanity when other people are constantly trying to get you to like lower yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, holding on to your humanity is probably one of the greatest acts of resistance that you can manage because there's so many people trying to dehumanize every aspect of us and every aspect of human life. I mean, if you just, like I used to tell my students, take like half an hour or take an hour or so every so often, close the door, go sit down with your beverage of choice and just think about things. And so if you think about this, like how our humanity is being slowly and in some cases rapidly diminished, um, it's it's amazing how so many of us are still doing so well. And so holding on to that is, like I said, is the ultimate act of resistance because that's what people want us not to do. They want to make us hard and bitter and cruel, like too many people are becoming, and they are trying everything they can to make us that way. So if you just kind of cross your arms and you go, no,
Not happening.
not going to do it.
Yep.
Nope. I will be kind to people even if they don't pass a drug test. I will help feed people, even if they don't provide me with an income statement. I will do these things to help people, even if it doesn't better or if it doesn't help me out in any way. I will do these just because that is the right and the human thing to do.
Absolutely. And I was very fortunate. Both of my parents lived through the Blitz in London during the Second World War. And it didn't harden them. It turned them into really kind, loving, and inclusive people. And I was so very lucky to have that in my life, especially in the generation of the latchkey kid and whatever. I had a mom who would bake a cake on a rainy day when so I could come home from school to cake and tea and whatever. And that was one of the things that helped me realize the value of that in the world and in giving that to people in their lives. And so that's what we're all about. And so those are
All
our prepared
right.
remarks, and we're happy to answer questions or just to chat or take recommendations or give recommendations. And if any of you want the slides with the recommendations that we have, please shoot us an email, either one of us, and we can share that with you. And you can find us on Blue Sky, not the beast formerly known as Twitter. I have left the building. Um,
Oh gosh. Yeah.
so yeah, if you have any questions or thoughts or whatever, please bring them on. And otherwise, go be cozy somewhere else. Apparently, there are no questions. We said all the things.
All right. We have enlightened people.
Yeah, and then pretty soon I will go and eat the coziest dinner ever of my bizarre Saskatchewan spaghetti sauce with all kinds of Campbell's soup in it. Do not judge me. It is amazing.
You know, I've eaten a few weird things in my life, but speaking of cozy meals, though, like right now in the refrigerator, I have chicken pot pie with biscuit topping on it. And I don't think you can get much cozier than that,
It
at
actually
least
sounds
not in my world.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And yeah, I've got the holiday baking queued up. There will be shortbread, there will be various kinds of gingerbread. There will be cranberry oatmeal cookies and all kinds of warmth and love and cats and good food. So yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Right. So I think we're kind of done. I don't see
We're
any
good.
questions popping up.
Yep. So then we will say thank you for attending.
Mhm.
And there is a question. How many hat pins murders should you commit? In order to be cozy, as many as you need to. And depending on who really needs stabbing with a hat pin, some people really, really do, which is why you should always wear a cool hat and have hat pins. I got a very cool hat made of Harris tweed at a craft fair in Edinburgh in the summer, and I'm so excited for, my chance to wear it and ideally not have to stab anyone, but see how the mood takes me.
Yeah, I would encourage you to make a spreadsheet of potential hat pin ease. You can
That's
rank
evidence.
them. Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, scratch that.
Yeah. I never said
Alyssa,
any of
edit
it.
that part out, please.
Yeah. Is this being recorded? Oh, yes, actually. So yeah, no, you should not commit hat pin murders ever, unless they are, of course, in self-defense. And sometimes we have to defend ourselves against the awfulness that is out there. On that
That's
cheerful
true.
note, stay cozy, everyone, and we will hope to see you again at some point. And please feel free to email us. We will answer.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Bye.